Hello, everyone, and welcome to the American Scouser podcast. Another Monday night. We are back in action. The trio is here. I am your host, as always, Timuchin, here in Chicago, and I'll do the weather update because it deserves it. It is freaking beautiful. It was like an awesome weekend to chill outside, be on the deck, gazebo, blah, blah, blah. It's very rare. Anybody who's in this neck of the woods knows you get 2 weeks of this before you get the huge attack of 100-degree weather or 90-degree weather with a side of mosquitoes coming your way. So gotta enjoy these times while we can. Out and about hunting apparently is Bickler. What's happening?
Yeah, man, it's been raining here since Friday, and it's not supposed to be done till tomorrow sometime late. So I'm just, we're in a low-lying coastal plain, so I'm just digging myself out here.
And Gally is with us. What's happening?
Not nearly as much rain. I clearly don't have as palatious of an estate either because I don't have a deck or a gazebo. So just get snuck in there just some time on the deck or in the gazebo.
Okay, whoa. First of all, I think from our shorts, we established with Bickler that you live in a house that has wainscoting and crown molding, so you have no room to talk.
It's a good point, actually.
I like how, in the shorts, that's one thing Bickler wasn't even listening to what you were saying. He was just checking out the paneling and the molding in the background. So that's
just hanging out with my rich friends.
It's like we picked up Bickler on the way. We're like, here, we'll get you a hot meal. Come on, join us for the Monday night podcast. As people gather around, Sir Z, Brian, 3 inches of rain. Yeah, I mean, it's spring. It's going to be here and there, but it has been like really nice. It was a nice weekend. Like I say, to be outside, aside from when we were doing the watch along with Sir Z and stuff. So we will talk a lot about the game, obviously, and a bit about the game itself, because this morning show, we really went on about nothing but booing and other things. It went all over the place, but fun show this morning with the Prince over here. But rock version today? No?
It's Monday night, the air is
all right, it's time for...
Yeah, there's no preferred version of the song.
Jimbo literally just went to bed at 1:04 a.m. after you started trivia at 1:03. Dude, guy couldn't even stay for the question.
Jimbo, tell him you're staying up only for trivia, because I know everybody is here for trivia initially. I think people might be turning off afterwards. Spencer is here with us as well. Okay, let's do the trivia. Okay, I can't even stand the music at this point, so let me turn that off. Let's do the trivia over here. Okay, guess what? Guess who it's about. Guess who it's about. That's right. It's about Trent. Okay, so when Trent made his Liverpool debut on the bench, 3 players were also making their club debut that same game. One of them actually scored their first ever goal. Who are the 3 players? See, Jimbo knows all about this.
Scored the debut goal.
He scored his debut goal. 3 players making their first appearance with the team. And these are not like no names. Well, one of them was only with us for 2 seasons. One of them was with us for 5 seasons. One of them with us for 6 seasons. Come on, Bickler,
oh gosh, I need a phone a friend here. The goal scorer.
Yeah, put milk in it as always until like Jersey or somebody Googles this. But come on, let's have the.
No. Listen, I do recreational activities that make these things very difficult for me because they rely on long-term memory, which I no longer have. All right. The fact that your camera went unfocused was like perfect there. Was the goal scorer Ben Woodburn? I feel like that was before, but I'm not sure.
Who was your guess?
Ben Woodburn?
No.
Okay.
Gally, back to you. Give a guess.
My God, dude.
Sinclair.
No, I mean, bear in mind, I said, one of them played with us for 6, one of them 5, one of them was 2.
2016-ish, somewhere around then. Let's clap. You said one of them played with us for 5 years, one of them for 2.
Rian Brewster.
Well, there they go. It's Grucic and Ajaria, but I don't think it was against Spurs. His first appearance was against Middlesbrough. I remember that.
This is not a
I just don't.
Bear in mind, this was on the bench, so it is.
No, it was when it wasn't it his first time he was he made his debut.
But on the bench, he was on the bench.
Yeah. I'm almost positive that was Middlesbrough in the League Cup, but
this will help you guys in getting the answer. I think it was away at Arsenal. That should have automatically solved the goal question for you guys. The debut goal. 6 seasons. First of his 120 goals. For God's sakes, people, let's do this.
120
a lot of players who scored 120 goals. Let's do this.
Oh, it was Sadio Mane.
Sadio Mane is one of them. See, Sir, even it took Cersei way too long to come up with that, by the way. That's disappointing. Because I would think he'd be all over the place. It's like Gerrard, he gives every answer as Mane. The second one is one of the guys, we're gonna have to do this. 237 appearances in 5 seasons, 22 goals. One of the best shielders of the ball ever.
Gini Wijnaldum.
Gini Wijnaldum is correct.
Yeah, that was close. I mean, a lot of people get Ben Woodward and Sadio Mane mixed up. So I mean, I was on the right track.
Those are easy to confuse. And there's a third player who made his debut in that match along with them.
Liverpool debut. Only 53 appearances in 2 seasons. Only has 2 goals. One of them was like infamous. I actually remember somehow I remember both goals. One of them was when we gave up a lead and then we came back. Lauren heads it over to him, if I remember correctly. And then he taps it in.
Is it Klavan?
Yes, Klavan is. So the 3 players were Sadio Mane, Wijnaldum, and Klavan.
And his second goal was the worldie on the half volley off the corner.
Yeah. So he has scored 2 goals, and I somehow remember both of them. That's making your mark right there. So, what a big boo to you guys for not being able to come up with Sadio Mane, especially the first goal over here. So let's get to, speaking of Arsenal, let's get to the Arsenal game. Obviously, unfortunately, the main talking point is going to be the Trent incident. So we'll start with that. We talked last week a lot about the whole Trent thing and our take on it. And throughout the week, there have been a lot of clips coming from the show, the Monday show and stuff like that, talking about it. And I'm really amazed with how split the responses are more than anything else. But this game, Bickler, kind of shows that, you know, whenever we post something, we always get blamed for, you know, being American, even though I'm not, for example, sticking to baseball and stuff like that. But we knew that the local audience, the local fans were a lot more angry about this than we actually were. And it kind of showed in the game. First off, let's start with this. Are you surprised with the response? The level of the response? I think we all expected a response, but the level.
Sure. No, I wasn't. I wasn't surprised at all.
Okay, thanks.
Next question.
Next time, put it in the question form. Gally.
I'm crushing it tonight. Let's go.
Gally, are you surprised? In 5 words or less, can you? Were you surprised to see the response?
No, I was not.
Well done. This is going to be a really short podcast.
We're going to have some great reels out of this episode. I'll tell you.
I'll say this. I don't believe I wasn't surprised. I said last week, I don't care how people respond. I personally would have been silent. I wouldn't have clapped for him. I wouldn't have cheered for him. If I was going to boo, I might have booed when he was warming up. And for anyone who saw that little image where they showed him, he literally ties his shoelaces for about a minute and a half before he runs out to go warm up because he wants no part of it. I might have booed then. I might have got sucked in with my anger and vitriol that I have and the angry Italian that's in me to boo when he first walked out on the pitch. But I'm confident that I wouldn't have booed while live play was happening and he was playing for Liverpool, trying to help Liverpool win. Like, I don't think I would have done it in that moment. When he started getting booed every time he touched the ball, I thought it was too much. And we as Liverpool supporters like to believe that we can change what's happening on the pitch with our attitude, our passion, and our energy, which is why we've made Raheem Sterling look like a puddle of himself every time he plays at Anfield when we boo him every time he touches the ball. So the fact that like parts of the stadium thought that was smart to do to Trent in a match playing for Liverpool and not think it was going to negatively impact him and probably have him hurt us, I feel like was them. I don't want to tell them how to feel because I just said I won't tell people how to respond.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was productive. I don't think it helped. And I think if they could do it all over in their head, they'd do it different. And I'm sure we'll get to this. I think the coach would do it differently too. And I think moving forward, he's going to do it different.
Yeah, see, that was the thing. I'm not. So we were doing the live watch along. But even Sir Z mentioned that as we saw him coming in, like to see the response, and that's when I like turned the volume on. And then we turned the volume off, obviously, as we're doing the watch along. I'll be honest, like I did not notice with the sound off and not knowing he was being booed as he received the ball as well while we were doing the watch along. I did not think the team got affected by it, but I'm sure clearly he's going to be affected by it. And I got no problem with people booing Bickler. I mean, my thing was there was a huge outrage to the fans who booed. And you can kind of tell as he's coming on, there's claps, there's boos, there's like a certain ratio, 40, 60, 45, 55. It would make like a nice little pie, I mean, but not even kind of a deal. And you can kind of see the ratio changed as the game kept going. But I mean, fans have a right to boo. I guess like I don't understand the anger against the fans. I agree with Gally. It was probably better to do it before he came on and not as he was playing, to kind of tell him where he stands and like let him know that, you know, we're not happy with you. But then once he's playing, are you shocked that it kept going every time you receive the ball and stuff?
No, I'm not, because I think we know how, like, first of all, we know this split the fan base, but we also know that the locals feel it a different way. It's a more of a intense feeling of betrayal, right? I think also what happened here is to Gally's point, I think a lot of people did just sit on their hands and not do anything. But if you do that and you're no longer cheering, what are you going to hear? You're only going to hear the people that are making noise, which was, you know, predominantly booing. So I think that there was a good mix of fans that I think there's a good percentage of fans that did not boo, but what you're hearing are the people that chose to, just because there's not that additional like noise of support that there typically is, right? So I thought that Rabo's response was probably one of the better responses I've actually seen to this. I think we can all sort of take this personally. I think our response to this situation is a personal response. And I think everyone has the right to that personal response, right? And I mean, it's a shame that it split the fan base. And it's a shame that we're talking about this when we should be talking about a title winning side, right? But it is what it is. And Trent's got to put his big boy pants on and wear it. And I think the fact that Trent has appeared to try to tiptoe out the back door and not face this head first has made it worse in the fact that the people that are upset are going to let him hear it more, because he hasn't sort of faced this with any degree of accountability that hasn't seemed forced.
Look, I mean, like Jimbo says, you know, like, yeah, the fans pay the wages. And if you're going to be there taking the applause and the songs, you have to kind of get like the negative response as well. It's part of the package. It's not, you can't just take the good stuff and leave the bad. And get used to it because you're going to Real Madrid and they give a lot of bad. But I guess my thing is, Gally, fans have a right to show a response, and this is where they're going to show the response. This is where they show the love, and this is where they're going to show, I don't know if it's hate, but it's definitely the disappointment and disapproval, because I just don't understand. A lot of people are saying that I see on social media that are kind of like poo-pooing the booing overall, are like, that wasn't the place. Well, where is the place? Because it's not like you can write them a letter or send them an email or send a text and be like, I'm really disappointed in you. That is where fans have a chance to show their response. But we talked last week, because I see Sergi in the comments saying, like it was the first chance for the fans. And we mentioned about the timing of his announcements and the hostage video that he posted. Was it then, do you think it was done kind of like what Sergi is saying? The club said, hey, get this out now. Take your booing at freaking the Arsenal game, because we don't want to have this drama when the Crystal Palace game comes around.
Oh, I don't think it has anything to do with it, because I think he's getting booed at the Crystal Palace game too.
You think the response will be the same? I feel like it'll be a lot tamer.
I don't think he's appearing for the club again. I don't think he's playing in the last two matches. I think if the coach could do it over again, he wouldn't have put him in yesterday. And I think he learned it. He had to bring him in for Bradley in his mind. He didn't want to go to Endo, but the coach made comments that I have Jones that can play there. I have Endo that can play there. I can use Kwanzaa there. He's already laid the foundation. And in some ways, I'm going to come across real callous here. There's part of me. I've already said I wouldn't have booed, or I might have done it in the warm-up. There's part of me that likes it. I'm not going to lie, because I'm a vindictive SOB. And I'm thinking to myself in the back of Alexis McAllister's mind, in the back of Gravenberch's mind, they're doing this to a kid who grew up and played here forever. They're doing this. This is what happens if you tell this club and this supporters group that you're too good for them, that you want to go somewhere else, that you have another challenge. Like, I think in some ways it's kind of refreshing to hear so many people, especially the ones from Liverpool, say, like, yeah, I try not to get too close to these lads because they all let me down eventually. At the end of the day, I root for the club. He wants to go to Madrid, F off, and let him go. But he felt different because he was one of ours, because he was living my dream. Yeah. That's why they're holding this so tight. But I kind of like that part of it. But I do think, do you guys realize that after the last match 2 years ago, they had a ceremony for Naby Keita on the field where they gave him pictures and a plaque and had him give a speech to the crowd.
Of him in the physio room, like getting different treatments.
But I'm telling you right now, there is zero chance he gets a presentation at Anfield that day. And I think it's because they'll ask him, and I don't think he wants it. I think that moment and the way he handled himself, to Paul's point, the video, I think we just saw that last moment for Trent. Unfortunately, he'll be on the parade. He should be. He'll walk around the stadium, probably get clapped off by some, probably booed by some. But I don't think they're going to have him. They're not handing him a microphone and giving a chance for 35, 40,000 people to boo him while they give him a plaque.
Yeah, it's too risky, isn't it? To be able.
That's my point. This is a smart club, and I don't think the coach wants it to be about that. And to Paul's point, it shouldn't be about that. And if the kid really cares, really gets what's going on, he would tell the coach, I don't need to be part of this anymore. I can sit on the sideline. I can not dress. You can let the Italian hostage get a spot on the bench and not get to play. Like, if he wants to not make it about himself, he'll back out of it. And I think they'll find a way between now and the next two matches. I don't expect to see him again. I could be totally wrong.
Yeah, I mean, if I were him, I would pull a Coutinho and have like a really suspect back injury or something like that. Suddenly fallen during practice and be like, my back!
Madriditis.
Disappear. I mean, Jimbo is right. It is a shame in that sense. Like, that's how it ends. But that brings me back to, like, and yeah, I do not want to spend the whole hour on, like, Trent's thing again.
Great.
But you were mentioning Robertson's comments, Bickler. And, when Gally says, like, Gravenberch and, like, Szoboszlai and players like that, I take that as those guys looking over saying, note to self, this is not the way to go. I don't know if you heard Van Dijk's comments in the post match, like the interview, that sounded more like a guy who did not like himself how it was handled, saying, you reap what you saw, and it is what it is. We get another 2 games of this, and then we win the title. We do the parade kind of thing. But he almost showed no sympathy. The way, I mean, I know he's like, but the way he carries and the way he talks is like that anyway. But it just
No,
felt
I
like
thought it was a great response.
done.
I think it was a great response because he just basically said, how you handle it is your personal business, but how people react is what you get, from how you handle it, which I think was like the right balance of like being maybe like constructively critical. But I also think he ended that quote with saying, no matter what, we're here for him now. Right. Yeah. So like, I did like the fact that he ended that, with that little bit of support for Trent. But he also made it very clear that soon Trent's not going to be here. And, when I look back in hindsight now, and I look back at like the way Trent has conducted himself through some of these matches with just a real disconnected sort of, like he just looked like he didn't want to be there. And when I look back at that now, and I look at some of like the body language with Van Dijk and in the frustration that Van Dijk had with him in certain scenarios, it makes you wonder how long ago this team knew that this decision had been made. Because it feels a little bit like, there's all this talk about how Trent hasn't been in training since he made the video announcement, etc. Right? Well, it makes you kind of wonder if Trent's been on the outside for a little bit with this side, with the leaders and sort of the team moving forward, because they knew they weren't going to have him next year, and they knew that he had priorities outside of this team. So
let me ask you this though. I mean, we will never know how the players really feel about this, probably, right? I mean, it's still a teammate. You're gonna try to back him, and I think when Szoboszlai and Gakpo are telling the fans, like, "Come on, like, chill," kind of a thing after the game, that's probably half of that is like empathy, where like, I don't want to be in this situation. Let's take it easy on our players, kind of a thing. What was that?
They don't want to answer questions about it, and
right.
And it spoils it for them. I mean, this is their moment. This is the team that won the title. I'm sure they don't want to hear about it.
This is my whole entire thing about whether or not it's Jimbo saying, let him sit on the bench, Sir Z saying, it'll all be a party. It won't just be a party, because yesterday was supposed to be an extension of the Spurs party. But the party was ruined because the day after we won the Spurs match and it was all on and everything was next, right? The party got ruined when, we all found out what we already knew, which was like the ex was leaving us. Like that's what happened. We got left at the altar. We got told at one point we were the greatest thing ever and we were the only thing they wanted. And then all of a sudden they were like, but the weather's nicer over there and I'm ready for a new challenge. Even though this challenge of winning real trophies in my hometown and being captain of my club, which was supposedly my dream, is a bigger challenge than winning at Madrid. Because they're a train wreck and they're years away from winning. They're getting a new coach. Who even knows what system they're going to play if Xavi even wants Trent?
Yeah, I was thinking about that today. What if Xavi comes and says, I don't want Trent or something like that? I would think.
What if he walked in and said
it works for a long time, including Alonso's thing that, he knows too, but.
Of course, but what if he walked in and the first thing he said was, yeah, I built this entire system around this attacking guy, and we can have him for 35 million. He's got a release clause, and I built an entire program around this Frimpong kid. Can we build around him, please? Like, we don't know. It makes no sense to me. And Trent's role in this, he made this all about himself. He'll continue to make this all about himself until he removes himself from it. The only way out of this is a comment. No music backdrop, no drama, no music. Just say what he should have said originally. I know this hurts all of you. I know you might not understand this. I love this club. but I'm leaving. And I'm sorry that I'm leaving. And if you boo, you boo. If you cheer, you cheer. I'll always love this club. If he had said that, we would have hated it, but we would have got on with it. Instead, he put out this puff piece, this fraud art, the hostage image. It everything he did backfired right up to the moment that he told everyone he was going. And I think he just gets it now. And I think he gets this for another 13 days. And honestly, come the 27th, I don't think you're going to hear Trent's name uttered out of Liverpool supporters for a long, long time. Because once he's gone, there's really nothing to talk about.
The part I don't agree with is I don't think this game was. I think the Palace game will definitely be different from this game. I think the Palace game will be more similar to the Spurs game where we were there to win and celebrate. I think the next date you circle on the calendar for a celebration is probably the Palace game. I mean, obviously, if you won this one, it would be a big party at the end. But I think it will be a different environment than in the Palace game because that's why I don't expect a lot of good play coming out of the Palace game, by the way, because I think people will be there, including the players, to get to the party at the end. And I think it will be a different atmosphere. I agree that people have, in some ways, had their say. I think there will still be some boos, but it'll be a lot quieter during the Palace game. But I do agree with, I don't think they will roll the dice with giving in the microphone and stuff. Gally already was saying, Bickler, I'll get your take on this. Do you think we do see him again wearing the uniform either against Brighton away or at the Palace game? I know some people in the comments saying like he would come in almost like a cameo appearance.
I don't think so. And I think if you see him, it would be the opposite of a substitution. It would be a start. But I don't think we're seeing that either.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I don't think we see it either for his best. I mean, I guess he can feel out the mood. Slot can feel out the mood and, like gauge if we're winning easily, like squeeze him in the last minutes and let's get this out of the way kind of a deal before the party starts kind of a thing. But yeah, I don't know why you would even like take the risk in an environment like that. Because I agree. I mean, it has been, when you were talking, Bickler, it reminds me of these guys, like, like in the youth team, like the other guy, like guest players. It just has felt like that all the time where he's very disconnected, doing his own thing. Oh, this guy is from the U23s kind of a thing. Like he comes in and plays. He's playing up or something like that. That's the feeling that I get like watching him. Slots. There's a lot of like blame being put on Slot, which I do not agree. I know like what Gally was saying earlier in terms of him coming out and saying like there are like different options. He even said it. But at the end of the day, he's there to win a game. He's not there to control what the fans are going to the trends or gauge that and stuff like that, Bickler. And honestly, like I say, watching the game with no sound on, I did not think that impacted the team's play and focus overall. I thought, partially because they went down to 10 men and stuff like that too. But I did not think it impacted the game. And you can't blame him for putting his best option to win the game.
Yeah. I think a lot of people think, this was just he was just focused on winning this match and this was the substitution. Like, I'm not saying that I think there's a world in which if you look at how Arne Slot has talked and handled this throughout the entire campaign for all the contract situations, I think there's a world where Arne Slot plays the players that he thinks he should play, regardless of the outside noise of anything else that's happening at the club. And I think if you were to ask him, if you were to say, hey, if we're chasing a match, I'm gonna sub Trent in, and you were to say, are you sure that's a good idea considering what's going on right now? He would tell you he made his decision. As far as I'm concerned, he's still under contract and still part of this team. So why would I not play him if I want to win? Right? And if there's a negative reaction, is it my job to protect that player? Is that a natural consequence of how he did business with the club? And so if I'm perfectly honest, there is a level of petty that lives inside of me in my normal operating day to day that loves that. And that's not to say that I thought he made this substitution to make a point. Like, I don't think we're going there, right? But I think but I do think he made the substitution.
That's really something three of us would do, but I don't think
right. But I do think he made the substitution and honestly didn't give a shit what the reaction was. Like I genuinely think he didn't care. Because I think that I think if you were to give Arne Slot a truth serum, I think he's probably pretty frustrated with the situation in general and how it was handled.
Yeah. Jimbo, man, don't feed the trolls, dude. You're just wasting your time.
We don't feed trolls.
Don't feed the trolls.
Don't feed the trolls in the chat. Like,
yeah,
if you feed the trolls,
is
they just eat
basically
and
a
eat
troll.
and eat and eat, and before you know it, Luka Modric shows up, and you're all living under a bridge.
Clearly, this troll has missed us talking about international football.
Yeah,
Right, because not one of us like the Americans, including the only guy who watches them.
So here's my thing. What is your take on that? Before we kind of like move on to some of like the stuff that we saw during the game and kind of like close this away. I mean, I agree with Bickler. I thought, and his answer was the same like in the post match. I expect the manager to do whatever it takes to win. And if he's in the squad, I guess we could argue that maybe he should not have been in the squad and there have been like different options and stuff like that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the goal is to win, which means you'll have the best players there, maybe except Chiesa instead of Nunez. But where do you put, like, what is your take on how Slot handled it? Because you mentioned earlier, Gally, that he would. Do you think he would do it differently? Like, if he had it over, or is he like, it is what it is?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't know that he was sure this would happen. And to Paul's point, maybe it was like, I'll roll him out here now because I need him and we got 10, 15 minutes left. Let's see how this goes. And if it goes good, then I can use him a couple more times. If it doesn't go great, well, I know who I'm not using against Palace because ain't nothing ruining that day for us. I mean, these guys have basically been on the beach since they won the league, which I'm totally fine with, by the way. And I don't think that they're training a ton. I don't think they're spending a whole bunch of time in meetings. I really don't. Like, and the manager or coach kind of told us with what he did against Chelsea, these results don't really matter because I'm not even caring about the sanctity of the Champions League spots because I'm making 6 changes and I'm not bringing Diaz in a match that's screaming for maybe my most informed attacker, right, over the last half a season. So, and to your point, playing Nunez, hell, he gave Chiesa minutes before bringing Diaz off the bench. So, to me, the manager has kind of let us know he went for the Chelsea or the Arsenal match, but I'm going for it my way. And he brought in Trent. He got the booze. He got to get his sound bites. He got to get his little digs in, to Paul's point. He got to tell everyone that you're not bigger than this. And also it's freedom of speech. And you make your bed, you got to lay in it. Like Virgil said, like, I kind of think like the club, the coach, the other players, it all kind of feels like they're supporting Trent with a little bit of like, hey, buddy, you asked for this, go deal with it. And they're kind of putting them in the shop window a little bit. I just don't think they're going to do it to the detriment of their party. And I think that's what the 25th is all about. And that's why I don't think we'll see a big presence for him that day. But
I think
we got a lot to talk about.
Slots did it, let's test the waters over here and do it today. And after seeing like the Arsenal game, you're like, oh, okay, we're not going to be doing this again, kind of a deal. But yeah, I mean, we move on. He moves on, having seen the freaking the shit show that was Real. I mean, it was like Trent will fit like a glove because there was no defending going on at all in that Clasico. I know they were playing their bench and stuff like that, but it is what it is. He's gone. So let's see who we got over here. I know we're going to see him starting the rest of the season anyway. Slot already said it. Bradley Bickler. I mean, while I like a lot of the things he brings, a few things really scare me. One, he can never finish 90 minutes. Two, his tackling is prone, especially in this day and age. He tackles like a player from a few decades ago.
Yep.
So it's basically prone to yellows and reds and stuff like that. So I am still not sold. And regardless of what he does the next 2 games, fair or unfair, I don't think I'm going to be sold with him as the starting right back penciled in next season.
No, I mean, I think we're going to see some. I think the answer to this really lies in what tactical adjustment we see with Arne Slot, because I think we all are kind of in agreement where like we don't know that he really implemented his system as much as he wanted to. Rather, he kind of used the pieces he had the best to his ability to sort of like accomplish what he wanted to by mixing and matching. And like I keep going back to at the beginning of this season, how his fullbacks were like the first substitutions off. And like maybe we won't see that. Maybe like when he kind of focuses on building through the middle and less from like attacking from wide positions, aka Jurgen's old sort of system. But I just look at the side and I think, what does it need? Like the biggest need from this side outside of a recognizable striker is fullback depth. And so, like, I think we talk about, like, replacing Trent. Like, there needs to be multiple players here involved, right? And, I mean, and you're going to look – I mean, you got Joe Gomez in the mix. You have players that you can come in and do this. But, I mean, like, real proper fullbacks, like, I think it's going to need more than one. And I agree with you. I mean, Bradley's a bit lungy in the way that he plays, like, in sort of tackles. The durability is a huge concern on a side where we have often had durability issues in the back four. So yeah, I think the fullback has to be a priority here. And I don't know it has to do as much with Trent as it has to do with just finding the type of fullback that he really wants in a way that we can compete in all fronts. Because like, I don't really trust that Bradley is going to be available all season in any form of fitness.
Yeah, I mean, Juju, by the way, says that the trophy should come with an asterisk so future generations. The future generations will hear that this was number 20 for Liverpool, and when we got back on the perch, that's the only thing the future generations will see. And then they will see a lot of Arsenal fans and other Premier League fans crying. That's all the future generations will see when they look at.
I don't know if does he want us to give it to one of the other weaker sides? Like that's
I don't really get it.
When you're better than everybody else.
One team dominated against everyone else. Everyone else had mediocre seasons where eighth could have beaten anyone up to second. Yet it's also going to be where the team that finishes in the last European spot will secure the most points ever to do so in eighth place of a Premier League season. So I don't really understand the logic behind that. Probably another troll.
It's just whining and complaining. I don't even like. It's not our responsibility to kind of go down to the level of the opposition over here. And you look at the record. The record speaks for itself. But you know, whiners will whine. So let's talk about this though, because Jimbo was talking about like the Frimpong thing. Bickler. I mean, we talked about it before, and we said, hey, it's like an option to go up top and stuff like that when Mo is away. But my thing with Frimpong is, and honestly, it's the same thing with Kirkus, is it's just totally different than what we think Slot will want. Perhaps if we are really involved with these names, and the Frimpong thing is pretty loud, like from semi-reliable sources and stuff like that as well. So do you think then we are in for a huge major system change? Because when you have guys bombing like that, obviously the midfield expectation is going to be different.
I like the only thing that makes sense to me is moving to a back three. Do you guys see? I don't see it. Do you guys see it? It doesn't make any. As much as I like Frimpong as a player, it doesn't make sense to me. So when that transfer if that transfer does happen, that will be very interesting. The only real part that I like about that. Well, there's several. I mean, I like the age profile. I like the profile. I like the price, and I like the fact that he can play up top as backup for Mo during AFCON. That's about it. But like when you actually say how much do I like him as a fullback, it's like a 6 out of 10. Like just because like I don't think it solves really anything that we've been looking to solve for the last decade in that position.
One thing I think he has, at least defensively, is like I was talking about something like this morning or like last week. He's a little Gomez-like, where with his pace, he can somehow make up for his like situational positioning and stuff like that. But if we are getting actually Frimpong, Galley, it does not make sense like Bickler is saying. It will only mean that there is a lot of tactical changes to be involved. Slot has always talked about if you have Trent with this ability, you do this. So knowing he's a manager that kind of like he's a coach that takes the guys and based on their skill sets puts him in situations where he gets the most out of. How realistic is it, do you think, with the Frimpong rumors overall?
Well, I mean, I think there's a few parts of the Frimpong thing. I think it is realistic. I think when there's this much smoke, there's usually a little bit of fire. And the Dutch connections, the fact that he speaks perfect English and he qualifies as homegrown in a side that needs homegrown replacements, that's a huge factor right there. The fact that his release clause is 35 million euros, which basically means that the day after you buy him, he's worth 30 to 35% more than what you paid for him. So even if he doesn't work out, you sell him to a team that plays a back three, that needs a wing back. And the other thing that goes back to his days at Celtic, and you heard a lot about at Leverkusen, is that he's extremely coachable. That he's a great person. He fits into a dressing room. And I think when you have this type of mental makeup, and you have a coach who is known for coaching up talent. I mean, we were giving him credit for making Trent a better on-ball defender at the beginning of the season when it looked like Trent was putting in a little effort. I remember you saying to him, it's not marketably better, but it's improved, and we have to acknowledge it. And I think the coach has something to do with it, right? Maybe he makes this player from a 6 to a 6.5 to a 7 on Paul's 6 out of 10 scale. But the thing is he ticks so many boxes, he makes things work. And I think they look at him as an option to play against sides that are bottom half teams on the road where we're going to have tons of possession and you want to have him going forward. He is a different type of winger. He's probably going to go on overlapping runs outside of Mo. Will Mo like that? That's a whole nother question. But another thing that doesn't get talked about is he's got a wand of a right foot. So he's good on set plays, and he also could play on the left hand and cut in on his right. So he offers you so much versatility. I just think if you're getting Frimpong, you got to tell me that you're keeping Joe Gomez, because I think you need 3 options at right back, depending on what type of right back you need that day. And it feels to me like Frimpong is more of a luxury and one for the future, one to sell on at a price. He could be a 2-year rental, but I just feel like it makes so much sense. It just feels like it's going to happen. I don't know. Maybe I'm over.
Yeah, I mean, here's another thing. You do need Joe Gomez or another option, because if we are going to use him as Mo's replacement and stuff like that, and knowing we just talked about Bradley and his being able to give 90 minutes, especially at that time of year where there's going to be games every 3 days and stuff like that. But I'm glad you brought up Mo's name, because Bickler, this is one thing I was thinking of. Both these guys, both Mo and Van Dijk, have said in multiple occasions, to the point where it's pretty obvious that these conversations have happened in terms of this team reinforcing and doing things. Going back to what Gallia was just saying, do you think that has something to do with, because we clearly, Slot listens to Mo and listens to his players, probably not only Mo, but we know for a fact he listens to Mo. Maybe Mo did say, hey, man, I'd rather cut inside. I don't have the top speed anymore. So having a guy who can overlap with top speed is the way to go. You guys should get somebody like that. Do you think that would have anything to do with it, or those guys' involvements are not as, involved?
Certainly could. I mean, definitely players talk to managers, right? And vice versa. And I think that, Hughes is probably in this conversation that's mixed too, right? And I think that's probably what's really important and what fundamentally was breaking down when we had Jurgen Klopp running the transfer committee, right? I think this is this feels like a much more holistic conversation that is all encompassing in terms of all parties at all levels, manager, player, executive, right? And it feels like this is much more in sync. So if those conversations are happening, that could be a thing. And I think, you guys hit on the Frimpong thing. the one thing he does have is a lot of utility, right? Like you can play him in multiple positions across the board. So if you're looking for pieces that you can get in as value pieces that add like true depth across the board, he definitely checks those boxes. And like I said, and Gally really hit on, is like from a financial standpoint, this is the kind of signing that Edwards really made his name on. So like it sort of lines up with a lot of things that we know this club has done prior. So yeah, they could definitely have a conversation for sure. My one concern about that is when I just want to make sure that the utility pieces fit, because I feel like sometimes we get into these positions with players like Harvey Elliott where they can play multiple positions, but they don't really play any of them well or good enough to knock down and like hold a spot down in the starting 11 in the system. And I don't mean that to be unfair to Harvey. I could use other players as examples too, but like, I just don't want to get a utility player who just struggles to find a role. So like, I hope that if we are getting these players that add value and depth in multiple positions, we have a clear rollout for them in terms of the role inside the squad.
And I think, like Jimbo was saying, I mean, this is going to be a window where Slot is going to have a lot more input this time in terms of the type. I think one thing with Elliott is, going back to what you're saying, even though he can do multiple things, he just cannot do the plan A the same way. It's not an even swap. I mean, we talked about this before. Like, do you want the guys on the bench to be a plan B, plan C, or do you want them to be able to be rotated and come in and do the same exact thing that your starter is doing? I think Elliott gives you something different, but when you don't want something different, you want more of the same. He can't give that to you. I'm assuming, Slot working with Edwards. And speaking of Frimpong, by the way, not only the amounts, the structure that it's going to be paid and stuff like that. It's almost like they made the contract for like FSG and Edwards and stuff like that. They're like, here you go on a plate. This is a guy that you will love to buy, kind of a deal. So I do have a lot of faith in that in terms of them getting players to kind of like put away your concerns over there, Bickler. Going back to the game, Gally, did you learn anything else? Did you see anything else new that says that change your minds? I mean, because I think up top we saw more of the same.
What I saw was what separates us from Arsenal is that hate these cliches, but when rubber hits the road, our attack can win games and their attack is stagnant and stale. So in that first half, they had some chances, and a couple times balls fell to Saka, and you were like, ooh, when he had that one curling effort that almost went in, and Ali made one save. But we had 2 or 3 opportunities we should have scored.
Yep.
Diaz should score the third. Curtis, great turn, amazing save by Raya on that play. Mo should maybe get that one on frame that he misses completely. Gakpo should do better with the first one. That easily could have been us up 4-0 first half like it was against Arsenal at home a few years back, with 2018. But our attack was great in the first half, super clinical. I think you saw there were a couple moments where I saw us play out from the back where it looked like better than it's looked all year long. Guys were in concert with each other. They were just making, it was a little aggressive at times. When he gave Jones that ball at the top of the box, I was like, whoa, what are you doing? And Ali didn't do him any favors. But then they got out of it one time. They almost scored the goal. And you're like, wow, that could have been like beautiful. I think that's what we're going to see a little bit more of. It felt like the first half was getting back to what we were watching in September and early October. Because I think as the season went on, and we got closer and closer to seeing the finish line to a title, the coach stopped coaching for performances and just started coaching for results, as he should. Because I don't think he ever thought come February he was going to have a shot at winning the Premier League his first year. And when he did, he was like, damn it, we're going to do this, even if it means grinding. And we started playing some old 4-3-3s and counters. It felt like the first half was what we watched, the possession-based football that was different and beating teams in a different way. The second half felt like a bunch of guys went in and decided to themselves, let's see if we can do what we did for the first half and just see this through, and we'll get our 3 points and we'll keep drinking and partying and celebrating towards the 25th. And I think once they got the first goal, it kind of fell apart. And then I felt like we were worse when we went down to 10 men. I don't want to get back into Trent, but I do think the atmosphere and I feel like the air came out of the crowd because of the weirdness that was that attitude in the stadium. And I just think we kind of went off the boil, and then, the final whistle's the final whistle. I learned nothing other than this team's really good when they want to play. And at halftime, they kind of were like, I don't know if we want to play so much.
Yeah, I think the second half, if that goal doesn't come that early, because during the watch, like I was telling Sergi, it felt like we could just lull them to a Slot special 2-0 victory, maybe a late counter or something like that. But that goal coming early kind of put them back in the game and stuff like that. And I think they came out with more of a fight in them, because it was kind of embarrassing. Because like you're saying, you should have been easily 3-4 in the first half, and it was kind of like an embarrassing performance from them. But I mean, honestly, looking at this team, though, especially up top, Mo is Mo Bickler. I mean, he's a given, and obviously he's not going to have like a worldie every single game. But, again, he kind of sets up the first goal, and, his value. He's guaranteed over there. I still feel like Diaz is a must for this team. Unless you get other players in that same profile, he's the only one that kind of is aggressive and goes up players, his defensive work rate and stuff like that. With Gakpo, and I guess I think we know Jota and Nunez, right? And Jota is not the same Jota. The one he misses, a regular Jota just slots it, and I expect that ball to go to that corner, and it just kept going, because the regular Jota just puts that in the corner. You're like, there we go. And then Nunez is offside. You're like, there we go. That's kind of like what I expect out of that kind of thing. On the left-hand side, where he sees the entire goddamn pitch. How you are you offside there is beyond me. That was just like, okay, let's not go back there, because that was freaking annoying. But the Gakpo thing is like the biggest thing to me on this like left wing over here, Bickler, because I think a big difference between the first half and the second half, especially attacking wise, is there are times where in 5 minutes into the game, you can kind of tell which Gakpo you're going to get. Now we're finding out it's almost like 5 minutes into a half, you can figure out which Gakpo you're going to get. The Gakpo in the second half is a shadow of the first half Gakpo. And when he's not in his game, man, like when he's not into the play, I don't know if it's an involvement issue or what it is, he's like zero. It almost feels like we're down to 10 men suddenly, because he doesn't give you the aggressiveness, the pace, and like the physicality that Diaz gives you, even if Diaz is having a poor game.
Yeah, it seems it's weird. I think not long ago we were talking about Diaz as like, the fifth preferred option on the attacking line. Like, believe it or not, I mean, we are not that far off from that conversation. I think 6 months ago, when we all still were like, this is make or break. Could Darwin hit the highs we think he can hit? Can Gakpo, we all were really fancying Gakpo on the left, and we all thought Jota would be this impact sub and would continue to just come in and do the thing where he scores important goals and important moments, right? Well, Jota's legs fell off and completely has just gone off the rails. It looks like he's about 15 years older in the span of 6 months. Darwin Nunez, I think have come to terms collectively as a fan base as the fact that love the passion, not a player that's going to work out for us. And then Gakpo has been so wildly inconsistent at a time where Diaz has been the most consistent attacking threat in terms of direct play, right? So like he's played himself back into number two behind Mo essentially, right? So like, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he can go anywhere. The Gakpo thing drives me crazy because when I look at all of the things that Gakpo does well, to me, it screams like he could do the stuff that Bobby did, right? That's what I see. But he gets there and it's like halfway there, but it's like he doesn't want to do that stuff really. And he's conventionally been on that left-sided attacker, but like the things that he does well are not things that fit in that system. And they're the complete opposite of Diaz. Like he can cut in and bang him in, right? But he doesn't take it out wide. He doesn't like taking it out wide to the touchline. He's best with his back to goal at times, which is not, Diaz's game at all. Like, so a lot of the things that you want in this sort of system right now from your wide attacking players are not things that he does well. Like the Gakpo thing is the one thing, like we talked about the big questions coming into this season. And the three questions were, can we figure out a role for Slot? And can we make it work? Done. Check. That's done. Can we figure out how to make Darwin Nunez the number 9 that we need him to be? Think we figured that out. That's a big X, right?
The answer's no.
And the other question was how can we get Gakpo and Darwin on the same pitch in the same starting 11? Now, what happened with Darwin sort of answered half of that question, which is you can't because Darwin doesn't belong there. But like what we haven't really answered the flip side of that is how can Gakpo consistently play as a starting 11 player in this front three? He has the physicality. He doesn't have the top end pace, right? So like I haven't seen the in-game adjustments needed for Gakpo to consistently do that. The other thing is like, and this may be, we say this sometime about Verge when Verge is struggling. Sometimes the effort doesn't seem consistent. And that's outside of Dirt Cow, I think you can say that about Dutch players pretty consistently, just in the way that they kind of play the game. So like, it's a big question coming out of this season that didn't get answered. But the one thing that we have, I think, as a big advantage in the back pocket is that we have a manager that's Dutch, right? So like the communication and the familiarity with how he came up through the ranks and how they play football and how Arne Slot wants to play football shouldn't be an issue. So like it is, to me, going into next season, outside of all the new incoming injection of transfers, like the Cody Gakpo experiment is still the big question that has to be answered next year.
And that's the thing. I don't know as we sign players, I do really think we see a totally different formation than what we saw this year. And everything that we evaluate as the names come up, we're kind of trying to fit into or replace, like in this system right there. For example, who's going to do what Szoboszlai does? Who's going to do this and stuff like that? But I can see us playing like a totally different formation, Gally, and the players that come in. Maybe this is, like I say, just not knowing what Slot wants makes this offseason very interesting. And any rumor, aside from like Kevin De Bruyne level crap rumors, like viable, because like even the Frimpong thing, like when I hear that, normally, like Bickler was saying earlier, like when we look at it, you're like, yeah, it doesn't make sense because that's not what we do, but we don't know what we're going to do. So you have to almost like value every single rumor out there as a possibility because maybe it fits the new plan.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't. All we know is he inherited a group of players. He agreed to coach the exact same group of players, and put like a rule over the whole side. That group of players had a extremely unique right back that required you to basically roll multiple players to cover his area so he could do the things he does to make you better and be your creative force, which then made you make your number 10 do all the running like he's a gazelle all match long, right? Like that may alter. Paul made a comment earlier, like, could we be ready to play a back three? And I don't think like we're going to line up in a 3-4-2 or a 3-5-2 or some type of crazy formation. But for all the times he experimented this year, is there not a world where he goes and signs himself a Frimpong and a Kirkes and says, I got these two high-flying, attack-minded fullbacks, and I'm just going to take this Rolls Royce and I'm going to have Gravenberch drop in between my two center backs, which go out wide when these dudes bomb forward, because I think McAllister does enough here. And then I'm going to play with Mo and Diaz. And like to our points, we don't know how he starts to move the pieces on the pitch. What we do know is he has shown that if you are flexible within his formations, you will get minutes, which brings me back to the Frimpong thing, which is why I think I'm even talking myself more into it. It just feels like he's the type of player this manager wants. Matu said a bunch of Swiss Army knives, and I like Paul's point. They have to have a place. When the dust settles, you have to have roles for these guys. But it feels like the manager is a hell of a lot closer to knowing what he needs now after 12 months and a league title. And I think that league title really helps because now he has the cachet that he doesn't have to be. I want him to win again. He doesn't have to be a smashing success next year. As long as there's continued progress, ain't nobody going to bitch. He delivered a Premier League title.
I mean, that's another thing too. Like, obviously, that gives you some credentials, and I think this has worked out perfectly. I know we were not as thrilled, and we were not saying the same thing at the end of the summer, but not signing anybody, and him seeing, even he says it all the time, that he was kind of semi-surprised with the level of the players that he's dealing with now. And I think he knows now what it takes for the Premier League as well. So I think he knows the league better. He knows the team better. So yeah, I mean, it should be an interesting freaking summer after getting number 20. Where did Juju go? I figured like he would stick around.
Yeah,
he stick around.
he didn't know that they had a level of talent like this Simicast kid anywhere in Europe. He said to himself, I've never worked with a player like this before.
And a right back who doesn't defend. Little bit of housekeeping over here real quick. We've always had like a group for American Scouser for the fans in the USA, the LFC America. So if you are following us there, head on to just search LFC America on Facebook and do join the group there. But we did create another group because we do have a lot of followers who are international and who can kind of like jump on conversation. So I will throw the link in here. Go ahead and then please join, and then do some inviting over there as we try to grow. We just started the group like this weekend. We're already up to like 86 members and stuff like that. But we do want to grow it because we do have more and more followers who are international. So, and from the US, Dara is with us from Arizona. Must be toasty over there, I would think already. But LFC America is basically the group. More design, I think it's a bit more. We restricted a bit more in terms of like the entry and stuff like that. Moderate a bit tighter. So we created this second group over here. And Ozan Kabak, yeah, he's not here. Ozan Kabak. Yes, he plays center back. Matush he takes the evening. He doesn't work evenings. The butler takes care of him over there. I mean, we always like to end every show with a final word from Bickler. Bickler, any parting words for this episode? This is your time, man.
No, I gotta start preparing for this since this is a new segment of the show. I didn't know we were doing.
No, he doesn't know about that segment.
I just decided. I decide these things on the fly, but this will be
like and subscribe. Smash that like button. I don't know.
There you go. That's all we need. That is all we need. But hey, thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us. Especially Jimbo, who is up now at 2 a.m. listening to us. We really appreciate it. Spread the word. Share with your friends. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe, like, do all those things. And we'll be back with you guys next Monday. I'll be back with the Premier League panel tomorrow. We'll see if Arteta is the bridesmaids or the bride or whatever. That should be interesting chat tomorrow. So do join us then. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you guys soon.